Welcome to the Grind and Gratitude Show. I am Danny Stone, also known as Coach Stone, is in the building. Look, if this is your first time tuning in, thank you so much. If you're an avid listener, you know I got a lot of love for you. Now, what do? I help authors, consultants, and coaches shift their mindset and speak to make more income, impact, and influence. And I do a bunch of other things, speaking, coaching, all that kind of stuff. I got a couple of books out, but it's not about that. What it is about is me bringing you amazing guests and conversations and tips and tools and resources to help you level up your life and your business. And since I have so much love for the fans, before I get into my very special guest, because I haven't had a guest on the show for a while, and I'm very excited to have this brother on the show. But before I jump in, I have to read this to you. This is how much I love my listeners, and I really want to show some love to a listener who sent me a message. Now, I received this message all the way from Kenya, and her name is Dr. Immaculate Mena. She left me this message. She said, "Good morning, Danny. Was listening to the amazing podcast today on the school run this morning. You are becoming very popular in my house. The boys love your messages. Thank you for making our morning rides amazing, and congratulations for a job well done." So shout out to Dr. Immaculate Mena and her three sons, William, David, and Lucas, listening all the way from Nakuru City in Kenya. I appreciate you tuning in. Thank you so much. Now, I got my very special guest here. I got to let you guys know, this guy he does everything. I don't know what he doesn't do. He was probably better off telling me what he doesn't do, because he does so many things. But let me just read this to you. Rudy Ray is a famed Ghanaian-Canadian activist, actor, and trumpeter based in Toronto, including the 2020 Juno Award win for the best album recording with Tobi and appearing in Guillermo del Toro's latest movie, Nightmare Alley. Wow, sounds scary. He's also, as a young upcoming thinker and cultural icon to watch, with a focus on love, peace, and self-expression. You know, we love people who are all about love and peace. Rudy joined 50 plus other artists in an event to raise funds in support of those affected by the war in Ukraine. Rudy graces all genres of music, providing energy and a sound like none other, and none that you've ever heard before. So let's welcome to the show my man, Rudy Ray. How are you, man?
Hello, man. Coach Danny Stone. It's true. You're getting very, very, very popular. I'm very well. Thank you very much for having me this morning.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Man, you know, the name Rudy Ray is it's an entertainer name. Like where did you get that name from?
It is, my uncle, I think, my father picked the name Rudolph from my mother's side. My mother's father, like my grandfather, is named Rudolph, and my father's oldest brother is Ray Kwaku. So, and apparently I was conceived in his house. And so he was like, "You better name this man, your next child, Ray." And so to fulfill both people's expectations, my name was Rudolph Ray Kwaku.
Wow, and there was a very famous comedian and actor named Rudy Ray as well, right?
More, yeah, he's
so amazing.
Dolomite is my name. Kind of chronicles his life story, which is also very incredible. Yeah. There's also another Rudy Ray who was a painter, Rudy Ray Rappaport. Yeah, really interesting. Yeah, I don't know too much about him, but it seems like an interesting name.
So you were destined for fame, you were destined for stardom, you were destined to do so many things, and a lot is in a name. So, that's amazing. So where were you born? Where were you born at?
I was born in a small town called Ho in the Volta region in Ghana. And I think I was pretty much raised in the Volta region until the age of 8 or 9 when I went to boarding school. And this boarding school gave me a lot of exposure and I guess insights into international travels, because this school gave me my first tour as a trumpet player, being a part of the school band, and that started to kind of give me, you know.
Wait a minute. You were touring at like 8 years old? You went on a tour at
No,
8
no,
or
no.
9?
I started. I was in the school. I joined the school at 8 years old, but I toured maybe 3 or 4 years after. Like,
Wow.
yes, very young. I
Still at
started.
like 12 years old, you went on tour.
We're part of a very young, like a gospel, school band, and yeah, it was a really interesting um, exposure into just the live music scene and gracing the stage, you know. Yeah.
What was it like at that age? Like when you were like 12, 13, what was it like being on stage and performing for people at that age?
You know, at that point in my life, a lot of things that I understood were dogmatic. Everything was about, praising God and doing it, like having a gift and um, being a servant of God in that sense. So um, I, I think many things felt like the world was doing me a favor in a way. Um, I think I was too young to start to really dream up what could become of all the uh, opportunities that I was getting to see things happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, John Tay School Band is the name of the school. Reverend John Tay Institute is the name of the school, and John Tay School Band is, uh, and the beauty of that school band was, you know, you had students who had played the same instruments or learned the same music, and then graduated and went on to do other things. So by the time you were actually getting to that point, you knew about other, successful trumpet players or, people who had done what you're kind of doing. And uh, yeah, like
So how
it's
important
just
do
a
you,
certain interesting, network. Yes.
yeah, no, like how I was going to say, how important do you think that is? Sometimes when you're doing something when you're young, whatever it is you're passionate about, sports, music, anything, right?
Mhm.
And you come from wherever you come from and you don't see people who've done it before, sometimes it's difficult to kind of see yourself doing that. But what was it like for you knowing that other successful trumpeters have gone on? Like, was that motivation and inspiration for you to say, maybe I can be at that level?
Definitely, definitely. I think just and having the humility to look up to other people to see the ways they're doing the things they do. Um, it's a helpful tool to making your own rubric or kind of setting your own manual for how you're going to approach your own um, artistry.
Mm.
It was very helpful, and being able to connect with them from time to time for advice and to seek their wisdom is perhaps one of the greatest resources I've been lucky to have. My teacher Barry Mahamo is in Amsterdam, and um, he forwards a lot of cultural uh, integration of Dutch classical music and African
Mm.
Ghanaian trumpet style. And it's
Wow.
such an interesting, niche, but it exists and he's doing it. And it's cool to know that someone is doing that.
I never knew it existed, but I guess I know now. That's, but I think that's a part of thinking limitless. I think for a lot of people, we put ourselves in one box and we're like, this is the only thing that I can do. And, you know, one of the things that we're going to talk about, you and your career, you've combined all of these things. And I think people have to understand, it's not like the world of work and the way the world is, you don't have to just do one thing, right?
No.
We're all multi hyphenated. We can combine things. We can do 2 or 3 different things, right? And yeah, I think that's really interesting. We're going to talk about your journey, but how did you end up here in Canada then? What age did you come here? How did you end up in Canada?
You know, so the music was going well, but a little too well. And my parents, my dad had, my dad's path, like, you know, led me to Canada. He had gotten a scholarship to come study at the University of Toronto back in the 60s, and then went on to study in Montreal, and then ended up at Harvard in
Wow.
the States. And so he was hoping that all his kids would kind of take that, or at least trail that path as far as they would, you know, they can go. He married a Canadian woman, which gave him a Canadian citizenship. And so while he had separated with her before having married my mom and had us, you know, it gave us, his children, you know, an automatic citizenship, even though we're born in Ghana. So I really came to Canada at the age of like 15 as a returning Canadian, not quite understanding, you know, what, how that was going to really benefit me, or even understanding what it means as a civilian, because, you know, learning the Western world was a whole new thing to me. And the plan all along was to come here at a ripe age to begin my college years, and then, you know, figure out what life could be from there.
Man, that's amazing that your dad went to Harvard. What did he study in Harvard?
Oh man, Ken Kwaku is a very, very, very interesting man, and like interesting African leader as well. You know, I think that that's another thing about Africa, is there are so many different types of people, and it's it can be sophisticated to learn how they came to be who they are. My father studied geography and economics.
Wow.
And he taught at the University of Toronto, and he went to Harvard Business School and took a job with the World Bank, where he served as the managing director for a unit of the World Bank called the Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency, MEGA, for over 30 or 40 years.
What? Man,
Yeah, he has
that's
a
amazing.
Wikipedia page.
He has a Wikipedia page?
Page? Yeah.
I have to look your pops up. I have to look up
So,
your dad, man. Wow.
yeah, well, in as much as I'm proud of him, you know, like his work and his life and what he had to build for himself really caused us to be very estranged, because, you know, I at an earlier age I got to learn that I'll be seeing my father once a year, you know, and, you know, for a child who's hoping to have a normal life, you know, that's not so easy. But after some time, you know, you come to understand that everyone has their own path, and luckily, you know, I think many Black communities don't have this family, like, you know, I think this concept of therapy and talking about mental health and all of this is fairly new in the Black community. And
Yeah.
it's nice to see that my father was the first person to pick up on how nervous, or how like unattached I was getting, because we're growing so far apart, that he found a therapist for me who was a Ghanaian-born Canadian therapist.
How did he?
I'm like the luckiest person in this. I'm actually the luckiest person in you know, in
Wow.
Canada, to help me start to understand and also like redraw my relationship with him. And it came at a very critical point um, in my career as well. So maybe some tips are, like you gotta just consider the importance of family and uh, yeah, take all the resources that they can provide you.
No, I think
Um,
I mean, you really opened up something there. I think it's really, interesting and, much respect to your father, way back then, introducing you to therapy, because you're right. In the Black community, we we avoid therapy. We don't want to talk about that. We consider it, being weak to go and speak to someone.
yeah,
And for your father to, to connect you with a therapist who was Ghanaian-Canadian, I mean, I think
shout out
that's,
to Dr. Kasai.
shout him out, man, because I think, I think we've had this discussion before, but it's so important that us as a Black community, we get the help that we need. There's no shame, and there should be no stigma in getting help.
Mhm.
And helping us to heal ourselves and heal our relationships. So, man, just so much respect to you for going, and your dad. And it's a lesson we all need to learn, that it's okay to ask for help. It's actually
Yeah,
strong. It's not weak to ask for help.
yeah,
It's strength, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, like, it depends on how you see it. It can be weak at a point, like, I don't want to
Yeah,
die.
yeah, right. That's
There's
true.
strength in being vulnerable in
Yes,
that way. Yeah.
yes,
So
yeah.
I follow. Yeah.
So, in terms of like your dad was this academic, right? And
Yes.
then you like, obviously there was a desire for you to kind of follow in his footsteps, or right? And so, how did that work? Like, did you end up going to university and studying? Like, what was your path?
Yeah. So, yes, I ended up going to university. I took 4 years of five in U of T, and then I spent a year and a half at Johns Hopkins University studying my postgraduate um, course in neuroeconomics. I
Wow.
took a combination of three things: neuroeconomics, um, addiction, studying addiction, and also um, like an elective course that kind of ties these two together. That is
Mhm.
escaping my mind right now, but around like clinical neuropharmacology, which was maybe the larger umbrella of all that I have been interested in throughout my
Wow.
interests in medicine.
Wow. And
Um,
so like, what happened with that? Like, you went down that path. Why did you
yes.
choose to go down that path?
Um, I think at the very end, I wanted to tie my interest in medicine to my interests in um, decision making. So neuroeconomics kind of gave me that like last exploration in terms of a course that I could really love. Um, and then the skill set got me working in the fields that neuroscientists typically end up. So I volunteered. I came back to Toronto to volunteer in the hospitals. I worked at Rouge Valley in the Rouge Valley Health System, in the fracture clinic with Dr. Han, in the radiotherapy and radiology departments, and also in the geriatric departments.
Mm.
Um, but my time and my rotation in the geriatric department kind of gave me a nervous breakdown,
Mm.
because now the reality of, dealing with, you know, brain damaged patients, stroke victims, um, patients that were in terminal situations of cancer and Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's, and a culmination of, all of it. Um, I think while I was studying and getting to know these subjects thoroughly, I hadn't envisioned the reality of what my day to day would be like that I would be spending time more in the, geriatric departments, because this is where your skill set as a neuroscientist is needed. You'll be spending time in prisons
Mm-hmm.
or in asylums, because you are dealing with psychopaths and sociopaths in a way that, and so forth. And um, I think I had to step back from that for a moment to be like, is this really what I want to do with the rest of my life? This is great information. And there's probably more to this that I can explore. It's great that I've taken the time and the training, to do the courses, but it's time for me to make a decision with my life.
Mm-hmm.
And one particular summer, I just decided I was also really broke because while I was applying to have um, a full-time job in the health system, um, most of what I was doing, most of like my clinical work were voluntary or in honorarium pays,
Right.
which was not enough money for me to really live with, which is another thing with, getting jobs and being secure financially and in the system, no matter how smart or whatever, however critical your job is, you know, yeah. And you could even say that racism has something to do with the filter or the windows too. But Coach Stone, should we even go there?
Yeah. Yeah. Nah,
But all things considered, I started busking and started playing the trumpet on the streets. And that almost, like a sword cut through and made me fall into a new reality, because now music was something I always did. Music was always, something I would do on Sundays, would do to just hang with the boys. Music was something, I that came naturally to me. And many, Blacks, I guess, that I have grown up with. In my experience, I've known so many friends of mine who, especially in the church system like I grew up in, who sang, who played the piano at least, who
right.
played drums, or played the bass and this and that. Always you had, people just naturally evolving to, Black, we always made music. And it was never like, oh, this person wrote this song, or, this person made this hit. It was just like, oh yeah, you have a musical idea, share it. you know.
Right.
So um, getting into studio with the people that I got to get into studio with was as like was an overwhelming experience of coming to understand star power and celebrities and so forth. But my love was always just being in the streets and like playing my trumpet loud and so forth.
So at what point did you make the decision to like, okay, I'm doing this music thing. I'm not gonna work in the medical field. When did that happen?
I think that it's evolved naturally over the
Okay.
time. You know, yes, there were some years there, especially in the years when I was working in the hospital at Rouge, that I had some critical conversations with, my parents and, just people who cared about my life, um, asking if these breaks that I was taking away from school and doing music was not something that was really a magnet pulling me towards a life that might bring me more fulfillment, because it seemed like even though I had this training to be here or be in the lab, I'd rather be outside jamming.
Yeah.
Um, and even up to until now, I can't tell you the full truth, whether, I know that the rest of my career is going to be, being in the movies, being in film, and just, being an actor, being like playing on records, or touring as a trumpet player. I would love to have all those experiences, surely. But I think that ultimately I would want to have, um, a life experience that has me being the most responsible and beautiful to my people, and who I'm representing, and those that have invested in me to bring me this far.
No, I
If
think,
they are proud of my life, I think that then I've done something fulfilling,
yeah, I
and
think that's
hopefully
interesting.
die young like Bob Marley.
No, you got to live a long time. You got a lot more to do in this world. But man, like what did your parents say to you when you decided to, like, I'm doing music, and like what did they say?
you know, I think both parents still kept this mentality like, yeah, do it as a hobby,
Mm,
keep it as on the side, do it as something that distresses you, you know, but like don't start counting the hours and like asking for credits and charging, what you think a Juno Award winning artist should get, because like that was never,
yeah,
that was never in in sight, So I think for the most part, my mom was just like, treat it like Sunday church,
right.
just, yeah, like have it, do it when you can, but like focus on getting that thing that can get you the 401k and a steady job. Yeah.
Right. So when they started seeing that it was more and more serious, like, what did they say then? Like when they realized, like, you're really doing this, what did they say? And the reason I'm asking is because there's a lot of people right now, and this is what I really want you to understand, and is like, there's a lot of people who are listening to this who are like, I have a dream, and my parents or my spouse or my siblings or my friends don't believe in me, and
Mm.
so, like, what was it for you that kept you going?
I think my parents believe in me. My dad's attitude quickly changed when he started to see the successes that came with, or at least how others were responding to it, because now it wasn't just me explaining to him that, hey, there's something here that I can explore that can, that can really make me happy. You know, there's an ability here that I can harness. There's something, essential here that is great. Um, he started to encourage that. He
Mhm.
started to encourage more of that. And also my mom, as all mothers are.
Yeah. But this is a good lesson because, I think I've done lots of things in my life that other people didn't believe in me, and that's okay. And the reason why I asked that is because you actually said something interesting, and I think we all have to pay attention to what you just said. It's like your dad came around and really started believing in you once he saw your ability. And what I
Once,
always
yes,
tell
once I
once I
started to see it.
and what I always tell people is progress equals belief. The more progress you
Mm.
make, the more you actually believe that you can do something, and the more other people believe in you. And so we have to stop putting our faith and our trust in other people to believe in us.
Mm.
Oh, I need so and so to believe in me. It doesn't matter what other people think. They have their hopes and their dreams. If you're
Mm.
dedicated and you're committed, you're always going to
Mm.
get better at something. And when you get
Mm.
better, the progress equals belief. You actually start to believe, maybe I can do this thing. Maybe I can achieve this goal. And guess
Mm.
what? Other people start to believe it too. So I
Yes.
always talk about progress equals belief. And you kind of just exemplified it there with your dad. He was kind of like, this is, yeah, maybe you're
Yes.
okay. And then once
Yes.
you started to get the accolades and the fame and the
Right.
status and really
It's like
doing
a,
this.
a proof of concept.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's a lesson for so many people. Just stay focused, stay committed, stay dedicated. You're always going to get better. And when you do, maybe you'll start to believe that you can achieve something. And then guess what? Other people will believe it. So yeah, I think I think that's a good lesson for anybody listening. Like I always tell people, stop putting your faith in other people and put it in where it belongs, in possibility.
Hmm.
Maybe it's possible, maybe it's not, you know,
Yeah.
but
A
try.
friend of mine once taught me that genius is effort. And I thought that was such a succinct thing to say. Genius is effort. Just put in the effort, and with time, you you'd prove yourself, which is
Man,
so,
I love
yeah.
that. So
Mhm.
so now you start playing trumpet, and now you're saying you've worked in studios with these amazing. Who are some of the big artists that you've worked with? And talk about some of the people the artists that you had a chance to work with, man, because your journey is amazing, bro.
Oh man, I've been so blessed to work with so many incredible artists, young and old. Um, in 2020, some work I did with Tobi won Juno Awards, and then kind of gave me this accolade, which was incredible. I've worked with this amazing singer named Looney. But even back when I didn't, I just loved playing, and I would spend more time maybe with producers. Um, it helped me get on some very big records. I've worked with Lee Scratch Perry as a result of that. You know, I've shared albums with Sean Price because Merciless, made that type of thing happen. I happened to work on a demo that ended up with um, the then um, uh, like a New York group who sold the song to Drake um, for the song Trophies. I've been lucky to work on
Wow.
songs with J. Cole, who is a favorite artist of mine. Um, I've worked with Peter Sun, who is incredible. Um, I think I've dared to work with some of my favorites across, especially in um, the R&B and hip hop world. I play a lot of jazz, but
Mhm.
I don't know that I've shared the stage with many great jazz players. The one person that I can say, and which was a very lucky uh, childhood to have, was I learned with Hugh Masekela, who is a South African like legendary flugelhorn player and like jazz pioneer. And I think his friendship with the trumpet gave me this childhood excitement to be a musician, to just kind of, just have the trumpet as a friend with me throughout my life.
Wow,
Um,
man, those are legendary people that you've been on the stage
I
with.
know, right? Cheers, thank you. And like just last 2 weeks, at the Ukraine fundraiser, I should take my time to see who was really on stage, but the bass player from the Very Naked Ladies, Jim Cregan, was an incredible person to share the stage with. Misha, who I'm just learning to embrace, has such an incredible voice. Um, Andrew McCann's just a great trumpet player who, and a jazz educator here that, uh, you know, is a great mentor of mine as well. Anyway, just,
No, no, no. Like I love seeing the excitement and the love that you have for your artistry and for other artists, and to be able to do what you love and to work with these amazing artists. I mean, you work with like Drake and J. Cole and some of these other amazing artists. You're on,
Mhm.
you've toured with some amazing artists as well, right? You've been on tour. Like, what is that like going out on tour, traveling to all these different cities and performing?
You know, I think that is one part of the experience that I want to have more because I've done it on my own accord. I've had my own bands, tour and have, book a few places. I've gotten to play maybe in replacement of other trumpet players, like when I played with Childish Gambino. Um,
Wow.
and when I was younger, I got to tour Europe, which is something I'm trying to set up again to do, going Oslo, Berlin, Dublin, Paris. Um, it's it's a lot of waiting in buses and waiting at bus stops. First of all, I'll tell you that much. But when you get to play in different rooms and kind of carry, like, share that energy, like receive that like have that exchange of of like of a live music experience. It marks you in a way that makes you either want more or grow tired of it, depending on which points of your own life you're in.
I love live music. There's nothing like live music. I love seeing live. I grew up in Nova Scotia, Canada, where there are a lot of musicians. Like I think one in three people in the Black community is musically inclined or more.
Yeah. Wow.
And so instruments, singing. And so I just grew up around live music all the time. So I love live music. I love live performances. And, there's just some magic to it that you can't get, listening to music on your phone or something. Yeah. But, for
Nova
you,
Scotia.
Yeah,
I believe Nova Scotia is like historically one of the places in Canada with the largest Black community.
Absolutely.
That's right. Yeah.
That's where my father's from. He was my father's side of the family been in Canada, Black Canadians before it was even a country. So yeah, there's a lot of
you guys like the Bank of Nova Scotia. Okay.
That's right. That's right.
Respect.
So my father is Black from Canada. My mother is Jamaican. So I'm Jamaican Canadian. That's the mix. And very diverse sides of the family, but both sides, like music is everything growing up, whether it was the reggae side with my grandparents who moved here from Jamaica, or my father's side with everything you could think of, pop, rock, everything, R&B. So I grew up on all types of music. Right?
Yeah, you hear it all. Yeah, nice.
So for you, explain, like, what was it like? First of all, tell everybody what a Juno Award is, because we have listeners all over the world. And what was it like for you to win a Juno Award?
It's a very good question. I believe a Juno Award is the Canadian equivalent of the Grammy Music Award, which recognizes, the best like song, or maybe the highest rated song in any particular category, and not just songs, albums as well, and music videos, and now I believe even production and other different categories. I was nominated for the best contemporary R&B song of 2020, as well as the best rap album of the same year. And we didn't win the contemporary R&B song, Holiday, but we won the rap album, which was an incredible day to wake up to, because first, even getting the nomination was like, what is this email? What is it? Like, I was like, guys, like, did everybody get this in this team? Wow. Incredible. And then, to get the phone calls that like confirmed, like, oh yeah, like this is true. And wow, like, thanks for being a part of this thing. And it's a nice reminder that, sure, you're doing something you love, you're doing something with your boys, and you never really know the impact that it's having or how it's reverberating with others that are listening. Mm-hmm. But it also is like a call to duty again, in a way, like, okay, we are paying attention to some of the things you're doing. What more, how, like, how can you show us that, that was not just, you messing around, you're actually here to, be a part of our musical experience, and what more ideas do you have, and so forth. So it's a nice challenge in that way, but it's exciting at the same time. And now I'm starting to understand that it actually gives you like the right to like a pay upgrade.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I should have been told this. The price of yesterday is not today's price.
Yesterday's price is not today's price. You got that right.
Yesterday's price. That's how you say it. Yesterday's price is not today's price.
I just posted that on Instagram. I just said that as a speaker. If you don't hire me as a speaker or a coach today, and you try tomorrow, the price is not the same. But
invoice.
But man, like, of course, like, that's amazing. Like, congratulations on winning the Juno. That's a major, like, that's really big. And
Thank
so for
you.
you, do you feel like pressure now to like, I need to go out and be a part of these other projects to make sure that I get another Juno because now that a standard is set?
Right, right, yeah. Also, Young Money, Young Money, Cash Money was the name of the label that treated all of what Trophies was at the time, because
Right.
it wasn't Drake's name. You know, it was a very, very complicated time. Anyway, now back to this.
Wow.
Sorry,
No,
I was
that's
talking
cool.
about my like I forgot this, like
Young money,
because I
cash
wanted to
money.
meet Lil Wayne. Anyway, um, sorry, your question again.
No, I just said, yeah, Young Money, Cash Money. Shout out to Young Money, Cash Money. But no, I was asking because you won the Juno Award. Now, do you feel pressure to like, I need to make another, be a part of another project to win another award? Like, as the bar been raised, like, do you feel that pressure?
It's such an interesting question. Like as the years pass and then you see the nominations again, you're wondering whether like you're gonna be part of it again or not. Um, it's such a strange feeling, and luckily, I've felt more joy seeing the number of people, like number of recognized names I've seen in the Juno nominees list in the years following, because it hitting close to home. So many of my friends who I thought were super talented, who had like incredible ideas that needed recognition, were now finally getting their break, and so like it felt like okay, you know it was like maybe I stepped into this room that I was like, whoa, guys, there's gold in here. Holy shit, there's gold in here. And then the next year, 2 years later, I'm like, holy shit, the party is in the gold room. And
Right.
that's how I'm feeling, like with like as things progress. I haven't felt the pressure of needing to be an award-winning person, or like I've not felt like I need to be part of things that are geared towards getting that prize. Um, but I have noticed a certain resolve to wanting things to be the best uh, version of myself, or being part of things that are showing very critical storytelling.
Mm.
You know, that is impacting or is exposing other like voices that you wouldn't otherwise hear. um Even though I didn't win the Juno this year, I was part of another like big award-winning production, which was Nightmare Alley. This year I spent time with Guillermo del Toro and Bradley Cooper, and like if you read like how what is getting nominations for that and how many awards that is being like relegated for, it's extremely overwhelming. i
Talk
can't
about
like i
that.
can't even post about it because I'm like, wow. And I'm very grateful for that, but then I'm also recognizing the setting, you know falling into a new reality that like I'm interested in film, I'm interested in music, I'm interested in excellence, I'm interested in storytelling, I'm interested in portraying whatever can expose me as African, as Black, as normal, as average, as like we can do it all because we are capable. you know because there's a youth out there, there's a young person out there who's also like, just finding his path. But the excitement is in the effort, you know, and it's a very strange place to be when you start to feel the momentum. Like, okay, let's make things happen. Okay, let's talk about this. Okay, let's encourage people, because you know you never ever want that to really stop. But you don't also want to become a gimmick. You want to be true to what like what your first intentions are.
Mm-hmm.
Cesare Pevase has a statement where he says, the only joy in the world is to begin. But the philosophical question behind that is, to begin what?
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, I love that. And how did you, I think what you're saying is really important, because we evolve as people, right? Like, we shouldn't put limits on ourselves, because like I said, we're multi-hyphenated. We can do many different things, and you're doing many
Yeah.
things. You're an actor, you're an artist, you're an activist, you're a trumpeter. So how did you kind of make the kind of transition, like you're still doing music, but into acting? How did that bridge happen? How did you get into acting?
How did I get into acting? I was very lucky in the spring of 2019. Like usual, I was busking on the street somewhere in Kensington Market or something. And this lady named Peter Gail Williams saw me and said, "Hey, like, you know, you play very beautifully. Have you ever considered acting? Have you ever considered, being in the movies?" And I was like, "No." It's a direct no. And she told me that they're casting for um, this role of a male Black trumpet player, in like a young male Black trumpet player in Toronto. And I'm like,
Very
that
specific.
that kind of sounds very specific. And then in the week that follows, I'll be tagged on Facebook and in social media of people searching for this same description, a young male Black trumpet player. And I'm like, what is my luck?
Yeah, yeah.
And they had this particular suit that they wanted someone to fit. And I happened to fit the suit.
That was
And I showed
destined.
up on set and I had no idea what this commercial, and it was so like strict about things, like show up around 5 a.m. for makeup and all of this because it's gonna be a long day. I'm like, woo, it's gonna be fun. And I show up, the day like proceeds as it goes, and then we finally are on set, and I understand now that this is a Hollywood production with Octavia Spencer and Tiffany Haddish and people that I see on TV in the room with me. And then I understand that this is going to be the case for the next few months.
Whoa, what was that like,
And then,
showing up?
and then I couldn't tell anybody about it because this is the first production I'm doing. I'm confused out of my mind. I'm breaking up with my girlfriend because, I'm already going through a lot of things at a time, and she's not quite understanding that I'm taking a leap of faith with this thing, and it sounds crazy that I'm telling her that suddenly I'm a movie star, I'm hanging out with movie stars. So I kind of have to hold the reality of this new reality that I'm getting into, and believe in myself that this investment that I'm making is bound to pay off, or I'm going to learn something from this experience that hopefully would lead to something. And the story was Madam C.J. Walker, the story of the first Black woman who becomes as successful as she can ever become. You know, such a critical story for any Black boy to learn, and
Yeah.
it's so easy to mirror because you can see the story of Madam C.J. Walker in your grandmother, anyone, in your aunties. You can see it in any entrepreneur that is living. And it hits closer to home because she is Black. She looks just like us. And, she feels just like the way we are feeling. She has all of these things. And then the power dynamic is shifted. In my first experience of a large movie scale, all the movie directors and the movie producers on set are Black and female.
Oh
So
my
it's
God.
like you're hanging with all your aunties, and they are caring about the little things that a typical white producer or white director wouldn't care about, like what kind of rice and peas you should have at lunch, and like, you know, how everyone should be feeling when they're all getting tired on set. And, you know, the little things that typically, you know, is like a feminine energy or a woman would instinctively think about, but the man will have to train to consciously consider. So like being a part of that as my first experience being in TV and knowing that it's gonna have such a big break like Netflix, I was like,
Massive.
wait for it, you know? And then finally it comes out and it's the pandemic. And everybody is like, you know, already in their own worlds and, you know, just caught up. And I have like, it's hard to really celebrate it because, you know, how many people are really like paying attention now? Everyone has their own issues. It was, you know, it's been a learning curve through it all, but yeah, like I'm staying close to the ground for like what's next for me because it's been an overwhelming experience.
That experience was almost like it was written for you. Like,
Yeah.
and this is, Rudy, this is one of the things that I talk about as well. And I think it's important for us all to know, like, I say this thing, like, to really, we all have this champion inside of us. We all have the ability and capability to do things that we don't even think we can do. And in order to get to that point, I say that we have to raise a bar. A bar is an acronym. Raise your level of asking for what you want, asking the universe, whatever you believe in, ask for more. Most of us don't ask enough. Raise your level of believing that maybe it's possible. You don't have to believe it's fully possible. Maybe I can do that. Raise your level of taking action towards it, doing things that you've never done, and then raise your level of receiving the gift, the blessing, the dream when it comes. And I find that, right? And so I find that we're all okay here and there with the asking. Sometimes we ask, sometimes we believe, sometimes we take action. But I find a big challenge for a lot of us is the receiving.
Yes.
When that woman came to you and she said, hey, you're amazing, this might be something you're interested in. All of these people it kept coming up on Facebook. A lot of people would say, well, I'm not an actor, I'm a musician, and on to the next thing. And so you received an opportunity when it came. So like, why did you say yes? Like, why did you, like, you had never acted before. Why did you receive the opportunity when it came?
You know, there was a lot of hesitation, honestly, but I think I had to weigh the pros and cons and be like, this is worth the risk. You know, I had to come to that resolve within myself to be like, I'm willing to expose myself to see what happens next. I'm willing to show up to see what this can yield. And maybe that comes with some resolute stupidity sometimes, or, you know, just sheer, you know, like, you know, like letting go of expectations to be able to allow yourself to kind of absorb that. But it also felt like a very peculiar call because of its specificity. Like, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't, you know, like, I think there was at the point I was kind of in shock that, like, you know, in all, you're coming through all of Toronto and you cannot find, you know, a male Black trumpet player. It sounded very absurd to me, you know. And so because of how absurd it was, I was very, you know, I was like, okay, let's see what happens, you know. But yeah,
I think you need
to in my scenario. So
absolutely. Go ahead.
I'm grateful that it worked out in a good way. Yeah.
You know, I think when people hear this amazing journey that you've been on, and all the people artists that you've worked with, or album songs you've been on, and now this your very first acting gig is with these amazing actresses on this really important film that gets released on Netflix. People are hearing your journey and they're like, man, he's had an amazing journey. It sounds like everything's just working out for him. Like, it doesn't sound like you've had any challenges. You did say that you were breaking up with your girlfriend at the time, but like, what is, because if someone listening to this, they might be like, well, that's him. He just had his life was easy. Like, what's a major challenge or something that you had to overcome that, that maybe a lot of people just don't know? Like, what's something that earlier on, you talked about, going to getting counseling and therapy, but like, what's something else that people might not know that you've had to overcome? Because your story just sounds like, man, you was playing on the street, this happened, this. Right, so, right. So share something with us.
I think, it's been a lot of fear of abandonment. Mm-hmm. First of all, I think I began this interview, or like this conversation tonight, like expressing how from a very, very early age, I learned that I was only going to be seeing my dad once a year. It bore a foundation of separation, I think I have a lot of fear of survivor's guilt, in a sense. Me as a product of my life was made as a product, or as a result of my dad and my mom, who had set intentions for why they were having the children that they had. And while it doesn't seem to really benefit either of them, now we are here, and we have our lives to live, and we have our paths to find for ourselves. And there's a lot of feeling of why, like, why give me life to just make me suffer, and figure this whole thing out for myself? And how, and maybe the resolve when you stop hating yourself so much is like, how can I use who I am, or what I'm becoming, to the best of my knowledge, and to benefit those who care and love me the most. And being grateful, and being sincerely grateful and humble, because I recognize that for the most part of my life, I've been born into a level of privilege and class that I'm shy to share that, because it's against an even bigger system, of white supremacy, and like European consult, and like history that has, so many layers to it. And while I am most sensitive to the common, or like the common African in me, I also realize that I have the capacity to travel, which the common African doesn't have. So, finding ways to live my life and not feel like I deserve everything that is happening to me, but rather I like to approach it with a level of gratitude for every opportunity or every challenge that comes my way. And also recognize maybe at the point in my life where maybe this privilege can benefit someone, and when to use that in an active way, like using these platforms when you invite me and into, like things like this, and seeing like the power in that, the power in sharing your story as honestly and sincerely as you can imagine, like you can tell it, in hopes that it gives someone else, the motivation or the inspiring factor to, just build and kill it.
Yeah, man. I think, thanks so much for sharing that. I think that's, there's so much power in sharing your story. And sometimes we think that we're alone in our struggles, and whatever the struggle is, it doesn't matter what it is. Everybody in the world has a challenge, and you think you're alone. And there's some kind of inspiration knowing that you're not alone, knowing that it's just not you. And I truly believe in the power of sharing your story. Like, some of us think our story isn't that important, and you don't know the people that are secretly watching you and listening to you, that you're inspiring just from sharing your story, your journey, your ups, your downs, what I've been through, what I've been thinking. And so I completely have understanding that, me sharing my story inspires other people, and all of us have that. So, I think it's so important that you continue to share your journey, tell your story, be open, be honest, be vulnerable, because most people will never tell you, but there's a lot of people that are secretly watching every one of us. Friends, family, colleagues, classmates, and they may never say anything, but they're listening and they're watching.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I'm definitely believing the power of sharing your story. And, thank you for sharing your story, brother. I just, I got a couple more questions for you. What's another big dream that you have? What's something else that you really want to happen, in your life? What's another big dream that you have?
Oh man, that's tough.
Or a couple. It doesn't have to be one. It can be a few big, 2 or 3 big dreams that you have.
I would love to tour the world again. I would love to, like, I want to explore, and I want to travel the world, and but maybe I want to travel the world with a message. And I'm working on that part. I'm working on what it is that I want to go out to the world to share. And it can be a very, very simple message, like just, energy and gratitude and funk.
Energy, attitude, and funk. I love that. Messages don't have to be complicated. They can be simple. Love yourself, love other people, wake, find peace with it. It doesn't have to be it. We all need reminders. We're in a busy world with lots of things happening. And when we have people who are constantly telling us to love ourselves, to be grateful, to be thankful, even in the tough moments, we just need a reminder of a simple message in a complicated, sometimes complicated world. So I love it. I love the fact, like, going on tour with a really simple yet powerful message. And, I think that activates your activism, because, you're
absolutely. And and right on that, I want to meet more people that inspire my activism as well. People that, are doing the things that I'm doing. And I'm motivated to see the world, like the better world that we can all imagine developing and building. And so, like, I wish to kind of get into the studio with some of these, like, I think every artist, I hope, has a secret list of, artists that they wish to really work with, and, keep a really, really fire ass resume.
Yeah.
So I have some inspirations, and
who are a
like,
few?
I'd love to work with Mos Def or the Black Star, True. If something like that comes along the lines, I'd love to, just be the trumpet sound in, like, a new, wicked project in that way. There's some more Wu-Tang records in the making.
Awesome.
which I'm excited to share with the world.
Oh man.
And I like the way the world also surprises me with some things. Um, like, you know, talent and like genius in this world is so all over the place, and sometimes you can't always recognize it yourself. It takes a third party. And in my life, I've been very lucky to recognize the third parties who, have just connected me to, bigger projects. And yeah, I think people like that, the producers, the the people who care about the pictures, the people who, who 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 run the charts, and who just receive the message and share it along. Um, they make a great impact in putting value to what we are building and what we are talking about and all of that. And I think um, I'm very grateful for those people in my life more than the celebrities. I'm also grateful for the celebrities because they keep the banks.
That's right. Yeah,
They keep our bank accounts okay.
celebrities keep those bank accounts coming. Keep working with Rudy, all you celebrities out there. But Rudy, I think before I ask you these final two questions, I think what you said is really important. It's like mentorship is so important, and we have to be
Mhm.
open to getting mentorship and guidance
Yeah.
and coaching and teaching from other people. We can't allow our ego to get in the way. When you need help,
Mhm.
or when somebody sees something in you, just be open to what it is that they see, or open to the advice that they give, especially if they're way further down the road than you've been, and they've already experienced that journey. And so many of us have to be open to mentorship, to coaching, and to guidance, because people can see things in us that we cannot see in ourselves. And
Totally.
that seems to be a common theme with you. Like, all of these doors open because people see something in you, because you're passionate about what you do, and you're
Mhm.
open to like listening to what they see in you, and then you answer
Yeah.
the call. Those are the three things that happen. So
Right.
I think that's a big lesson for a lot of people.
Yeah. No, and to speak to my generation, I think that many of us, like quickly get into this place where we think that okay, I'm getting the skills. I think I can figure it out now. They stop looking up to, you know, the older generations who have figured out this already, and for guidance, or just like, even to just check in sometimes. I think people's idea of guidance is like, oh, I'm asking my big brother to like run my life for me. No, it's really just checking in to, like, for them to recognize that you care about you know them seeing how you're progressing. And there's so much blessing in like being able to not have your ego drive the success of your own motivations and whatnot. And I, I think maybe it's my time in boarding school that helped me see these layers, that no matter how old I get, there are there are people who have a certain history of things that who can help me in a way that I'm always going to need advice for,
Mhm.
because there's more to do. And like, hopefully be humble enough to carry on some of the templates and things that they started, because you know really, um it's greatest when you're building upon what is already there. Like, we have great civilizations born over a long time, and for you to recognize that long time, you need to make that connection to the older generations and like the older people, and understand that method, or at least be willing to learn in order to pass it on.
Yeah, then that's
Yeah,
that's
and see yourself as just part of this bigger thing that is building. And there's so much comfort in realizing that you are part of like the bigger thing. Going back to Ghana did that for me. Going
mm,
back to Ghana, like, for a moment, made me feel like, wow, I am an army.
Wow.
And
Wow.
that was such a it was belittling in one way, but also so like encouraging because I was like, you can't kill me, like you're gonna have to kill all of us to kill me.
How long had it been? How long had it been since you've been back to Ghana?
13 years.
Wow, 13
Yeah,
years.
like I left as a child. I left, just to have my university experience and all of that, and never went back until I'd gotten some, time in the medical field, gotten some success in the movies. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe Ghana would recognize me if I'm a celebrity, not a doctor.
So what was that, what was that experience like going back after 13? Like when you went back, what did you feel when you first went back home? What was that experience
Oh
like?
man. Yo, there's nothing like it. Like first of all, like uh, it was because of COVID and all of these like restrictions for travel. I wasn't quite sure how smooth my travels are gonna be. But luckily, you know, give it up to the white man. The place still worked the way they do. Everything was smooth, and like getting back home um, was very very grounding and very refreshing. And because my intentions were primarily to just reconnect with family and touch base with family members and so forth, I just kept traveling throughout Ghana to see people and to visit homes and get a sense of all that had changed. And after 13 years of being away, you really feel the impact of like modern modernization and industrialization of places. And it's while it's so um overwhelming to feel Ghana getting a structure that is like almost ready to build up into a Western civilization, and even a second class world, or whatever, like first world, second world, or
Right.
like while it feels like they're progressing technologically and all of that, there's a strong um, patriotic feeling in the music, in the way that people dress, in the freedom of the people, in the way they connect with you, and and maybe because this is what I grew up with, um, regaining that type of um, social parlay
Mm-hmm.
was very easy. And then it dawned on me how quickly you can start to forget how people connect with each other, how we treat each other as brothers and sisters, or like yes, Canadians have a, a lot of hospitality and in the culture, but I don't think that they hold a strong culture value to the hospitalities and ethics that they have. Where in Ghana, it sips right down to the music, it sips right down to the food, how we eat, how like the gestures, like physical gestures,
Yeah.
and all of that helped my anxiety, helped my nervous system, like in a very physical way. That
Mm.
I realized, wow, I am missing this when I travel to other countries that don't have these cultural, you know, things in the society, and like, it's in the little things, and I'm sure we can discuss this in so many ways, and how maybe some of it is useful and some of it is not so useful, because it's
Yeah.
like I don't know if I want to talk with my taxi driver for 10 minutes before we get to where we need to get, like
Right. Right. Right.
all of those like little things in between, but it felt like Ghana is still the same, but Ghana is just getting better in what it is. And the idea of blackness and Africanness is catching on in a different way. Maybe it's catching on to me more because I'm an older person now, and I'm starting to see how, Western education has impacted our traditions and, our perception of ourselves. The beauty of all of it is that I have my grandmother, my mother's mother, who is a queen mother in Wusuta, a small village but she keeps very strong traditional ways,
Mm-hmm.
And in the purest form.
Right.
So like having someone like that and having her children, my mom and all her sisters, hold the Ewe cultural way of living was helpful. Like
Wow.
they would not speak English to me; they'll speak Ewe the whole time. So I had to
Wow.
think and respond in
Wow.
Ewe, which was
Wow.
so the most crucial learning for me to see that wow, understand, what is a native and what is a foreigner. Understand, see the difference in who you are and how you are representing yourself,
Man,
and
that's
the
so
nuances there.
that's so amazing. I was
So
following your journey on Instagram, and yeah, man, it's so amazing that you had that experience to go back home and to reconnect with your family. Look, man, we could
yeah,
talk forever. We could talk
we
forever. Like
could
this is
talk
like
forever,
we're gonna
man.
have to
But
have a
yeah,
part two of this. Like,
Ghana
but
was amazing.
but
Ghana
I
was
have two.
incredible, and
I,
you have to come to Ghana.
I'm definitely going to absolutely going to
I would
Ghana for
love to
sure.
host you.
I'm
Yes,
definitely
yes,
going.
yes.
So I got two questions that I ask everybody that I end with. So the first one is, what does the word grind mean to you?
Yeah, man. To me, grind means esteem, understanding what you think you're worth to yourself and what the day is worth to you, each time.
Wow.
And like, it's so clear to me that everyone's grind is different and should be, but there's a certain inspiration, a certain motivation when you see someone whose grind matches yours. I wrote a poem very recently that has a line, a good friend, or a good mirror is an old friend. A good mirror is an old friend. When you have an old friend who can, who can check in with you and be like, yo, hey Danny, man, yeah, I see, back in the day how you used to be, and I always saw this in you, or and so forth and so on. You can see a certain reflection of your own motives, and that's the grind for me. Just coming into that pure awareness and being sensitive to your own thoughts and carrying it forward, acting with it, effectively. That's the grind.
Wow.
It can
And,
start at 8 a.m. It can start, and it doesn't have to, it's beautiful to wake up, have a routine and so forth. But, lately, my meditation has been this thought: wake up throughout the day.
oh, that's good. Yeah. Wow. And that's good. And my last question is, what does gratitude mean to you?
Accepting, when the grind is being aware and seeing and availing yourself, gratitude is learning to accept. And that also takes a lot of humility. That also takes a lot of honor. That always also takes a lot of understanding your own value, to be like, okay, it's not everything that needs acceptance, or it's not everything that I need to accept. Or, my brother taught me a word the other day, which was contrition. It's almost like you're accepting it, but you don't say, okay,
Yeah.
sometimes when you're learning, when you're, when you have a young brother, or when you have a young kid and you're teaching them something and then they're better than you, and you're like, oh, I know it better. You don't say you are better, but you say, okay, you're getting good.
Right.
Something like that.
Right.
Contrition.
Mm.
Gratitude has a lot of the elements of learning how to be open, learning how to accept. And it takes intentional practice, because gratitude is money. It's a currency in a way. The more you can say thank you to things, you know, the more like the more value, you know, those things hold and so forth. And so yeah.
Yeah, man.
I hope that's a
No, that's
satisfactory
great,
answer.
man. Look, thank you, Rudy Ray. Thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate you being here. Look, let everybody know where they can connect with you.
My social media handles are all the same, at Rudy Ray Kwaku, my full name. Instagram, I'm most active on. I have Twitter. You could, you know, shout me out on that as well. Facebook is great. For my music, you would have to kind of dig through my life to kind of find what I'm working on, because I'm always on different album projects and so forth. But my website, rudyray.co, is comprehensively putting together all the things that I've been working on, both as a musician and an actor, and my poetry and everything else. I'm working to kind of collate everything. So rudyray.co and at Rudy Ray Kwaku on socials.
Thanks, man. Okay, make sure that you follow Rudy. I mean, you can see that he's involved in so many different things. He's walking this amazing journey of, you know, music and activism and acting. And make sure that you follow him. Rudy, thank you so much for being on the show. We definitely got to come back and have a part 2 or even a part 3 at some point, because I know you got more things in the works, and I'm gonna have to bring you back maybe a year from now, and we'll sit down and do this again.
Man.
But thank you, brother, so much for being on the show, man. I really appreciate you being here.
I wanted to give a shout out to Mark Stoddard, because we are both, you know, riding on the beloved. I see you're wearing a beloved T-shirt. Yes.
That's right.
Yes. Thank you very much, Coach Stone. I am so inspired by everything you do. You know, I think I catch myself in the morning sometimes checking what the Coach Stone post is for the day. That's my motivation. That's why I can get to it, get right to it. Yes. Thank you very much for all your work, and you're a great inspiration in the community. And thank you again for having me on the show.
I appreciate you, brother. Take care.
Take care.